In newly filed court documents, his lawyers say none of the victims' DNA was found in Kohberger's apartment, home, office, or car.
First time they had the car, they had the wrong year. They then went and reverse engineered it.
Somebody else touch it with his DNA on their hand? Did he touch it a long time ago? Was there a mix-up in the laboratory or by the police? Did somebody plant it? Was there a mix-up in the laboratory or by the police? Did
Kohberger's lead attorney explained what happened from her vantage point.
Last night, she was visited by 2 FBI agents and interrogated about her testimony in the timing of the declaration. That, in our view, impacts Mr. Kohberger's due process rights and his rights to effective assistance of counsel.
Ann Taylor told Judge John Judge that she would file a motion regarding what happens to witnesses after they testify in court. Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson explained why he asked the FBI to investigate after hearing Vargas might be questioning some of her own
The power that we have right now is not with Congress. It's actually with the individuals. And I tell people all the time, don't put Alexa in your house if you don't want people listening to you. Don't buy 23andMe if you're against what they're doing with the data. All we can do is stand up for ourselves and protect ourselves and not sort of follow the herd, follow the crowd.
Police department, search warrant, come to the door.
Now Thompson has told the court he will not cross-examine the witnesses that Taylor called to testify about genetic genealogy. But there are questions about whether the FBI agents visiting Vargas was proper. I spoke with former FBI agent Tracy Walder about it.
Well, it's not something I typically hear about FBI agents going in and visiting a witness after that they have delivered testimony.
Does the affidavit say are publicly available?
So to say it's publicly available, to me, is misleading at best. The police have special use of these databases. They can use the databases in a similar way that I can, but I can only do it for my DNA. They can do it for your DNA. Transparency about how the leads were generated is really important for the general public to know because they're being used for this.
Right? The interesting thing that I see here is the FBI is not the dominant investigatory team in the Kohberger case. So I'm surprised that they were the ones that followed up with this, but it could be simply because she's in a different location and it's easier.
Bill Thompson said this was about information he received after the hearing, but prosecutors had reserved the right to cross-examine some of the witnesses at a later date. Now they say, as I mentioned, that they are not going to do so, which also struck Tracy Walder as odd. FBI agents do not typically record interviews or wear body-worn cameras. It's not clear whether that happened in this case, or whether the agents simply took notes about the meeting with Vargas. The prosecution has filed information related to that under seal with the court, so the public cannot see it. Has filed information related to that under seal with the court, so the public cannot see it.
Transparency about how the leads were generated is really important for the general public to know because they're being used for this.
That the FBI changed their story on the Elantra as to what year the model was. And number 3, that they, so far, the DNA that is not admissible, what they put in the probable cause.
The many things I have done as president and thereafter is to expose the massive corruption and fraud that takes place on a regular basis within the USA. Hard to believe, isn't it? Look how corrupt the Department of Injustice has turned out to be, and the FBI. How corrupt the Department of Injustice has turned out to be, and the FBI.
Welcome back.
Thanks. I think I would like the carbonara.
Okay.
But if I have like a free grub truck on my app.
Oh, yep. So what you want to do is we'll actually do this.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
How many more do you need? That's the second one? Awesome.
Maybe I didn't have a free one.
Right here.
And then what was the Mac?
Don't forget to remove the spoon.
The carbonara.
The carbonara Mac of the week.
Here, I'll grab it for you.
Excellent. And then click see rewards.
Enjoy.
And it looks like you do not quite have enough points yet.
Oh, that's okay. That's good.
Believe it or not, this is a camera. Yeah. Believe it or not, this is a camera. Yeah. But the way it functions is actually pretty fun and clever. You pop it open, kind of have to guess a little bit on your framing. And the shutter button is pretty close to the lens, so you really have to be careful when you shoot this thing. Otherwise your finger is gonna get in frame. More on that in just a second. And the way to advance the film after each shot and to just, wind it, it's the top of the can itself. You just grab it and you twist it. And then once you're done shooting the photos, to rewind the film, you pop the tab and then you rewind it the other way. Now, this is the Coca-Cola version. There are a ton of other versions available as a soda can or even a beer can. There's a Budweiser can that you can get, variety of different ones to collect, honestly, and there's been one. I would love to get 5 more and make it a little 6-pack. I think that'd just be so ridiculous and fun. There are a couple other smaller versions of this that shoot, I think, the 110 film, so be careful.
Found the FBI is focused on, quote, particularly vulnerable people, including those with intellectual and mental disabilities and the indigent. Well, a new documentary that just premiered here in New York at the Tribeca Film Festival takes us inside the world of particular informant who has played a key role in several major terrorism cases. And it does so while he's in the middle of carrying out his latest sting operation. It's called Terror. The T is in parentheses to put the emphasis on error. It came together when 2 independent filmmakers gained unprecedented access to follow Saeed Torres, aka Sharif, a 63-year-old former black revolutionary turned FBI informant, as he monitors a white Muslim convert named Khalifa al-Akili. Torres knew one of the directors, Lyra Cabral, and after he came out to her as an informant, he agreed to share his story without informing his superiors. In this clip from the film, the other director, David Felix Sutcliffe, interviews Sharif inside the FBI safe house in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the operation is underway. Inside the FBI safe house in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the operation is underway.
FBI agents watching his parents' home in Pennsylvania reportedly saw Kohberger wearing surgical gloves and go house to house at 4 a.m. with garbage bags.
Now, it was a very tight-lipped operation. Only about 7 to 8 troopers knew about the surveillance before an entire CERT team, the state police's Operation CERT team, was put together to serve the arrest warrant.
Anjanette Levy coming to you live from Moscow, Idaho, and we have a little bit of breaking news for you. Remember those traffic stops that we told you about on December 15th that were conducted of Bryan Kohberger in Indiana, one by the Hancock County Sheriff's Office, the other by Indiana State Police? Well, there was some reporting last night by another outlet saying that the FBI directed law enforcement to pull over Bryan Kohberger, that the FBI directed those agencies to do so. I just got a statement in because I asked the Indiana State Police about this last night. I sent them an email and they just sent me a statement that originates from the FBI, and inquiries therein should be directed to that agency. It says, contrary to reports, the December 15th traffic stops conducted on the vehicle being driven by Bryan Kohberger in Indiana were not requested or directed by the FBI. Jennifer Koffendorfer, we thought that these were pretext stops, possibly, especially the Indiana State Police one, because they didn't ask Bryan Kohberger for his ID. FBI is coming out and saying they were not pretext stops. Your thoughts as a former FBI agent?
I'm surprised. I'm going to call it the way I see it here, balls and strikes. And what I saw in there was, first of all, exactly in the times that I was involved in requesting a pretext, being in the follow car, exactly how I wanted things to play out. No ticket to be issued, no need to run them, get as much as you can, keep them occupied, talk a little bit. This was perfect. It was a perfect pretext stop, in my opinion, to determine Who's in that car? Could they see any weapons? What was the demeanor of Mr. Kohberger? What exactly was the relationship between the two in the car? We know father and son. What did they have to say on the stop? So I'm quite surprised. I haven't seen that come out from the Bureau yet, but I understand the state police did. But as I mentioned before, I've seen now 3 different statements that are very contrary to one another. And I'm left a little bit in confusion over what really happened and why it really happened.
Yeah, it seems awfully coincidental too. You're following 2 close stops, within a short time of one another. But the feds, the FBI, I mean, they rarely come out and say anything about an ongoing investigation. That's what shocks me.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call, and then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
This was such a saturated crime scene, and there were so many people there before that night and that morning when people actually called other people that came there before police even got there. I find that to be the oddest, strangest thing I've just about ever heard. You got it. Thank you. And I want to say one other thing. Yeah, sure. I was a part of the Times Square investigation where a bomber drove up on a bicycle and put a pipe bomb on the recruiting depot in Times Square in 2008. They've never been caught, and they drove all over New York City on a bicycle. Wow. So that tells you the reality of cameras. A yappy dog is better than a camera.
Yeah, it's going to be a long.
That's Gabriela Vargas, expert witness for the defense in the Idaho student murder case. She's crucial. She's a crucial witness here because this is one way the defense is trying to get the DNA evidence tossed from this case. And this is the same witness who, after she testified there on the stand, next day the FBI went down there.
This week, 48 hours on a cold case murder that stumped investigators for nearly 35 years. Roxanne Wood was found dead in her Michigan home back in 1987. DNA from the crime scene was preserved, but there wasn't enough evidence to charge any suspects. Decades later, a genetic genealogist helped investigators find the killer by constructing a family tree. 48 Hours correspondent Peter Van Sant reports.
In February 1987, Terry Wood came home from a night of bowling to discover his wife Roxanne dead on the kitchen floor.
She was bleeding profusely from her neck.
Detective First Lieutenant Chuck Christensen says Roxanne had been sexually assaulted and her throat was slashed. DNA was preserved, but given technology limits at the time, not much could be done with it. 34 long years passed without a real lead.
I was starting to lose hope.
Then, in 2021, investigative genetic genealogist Gabriela Vargas got to work on the cold case. Though only a scant amount of DNA was left, Vargas was confident.
I believed that this case was extremely solvable. I believed that I could solve it.
Incredibly, Vargas identified a suspect in just 4 days. His name, Patrick Gillum.
Okay, so I'm going to put my understanding of this is that it seems it was an expert witness for the defense who testified about this genealogy stuff. And then like the next day, the prosecutor sends 2 FBI agents to knock on her door and question her. Is this unusual, Dave?
Indeed it is.
She's talking about the database tools have known loopholes that allow a genealogist to see matches that have explicitly declined to participate in law enforcement matching. This is not a glitch in the programming causing this by accident. It is a standard feature within the tools that essentially tricks the system into displaying all matches as opposed to only those who have consented to law enforcement matching. This is not a loophole, nor is this something you'll stumble upon. Using the tool this way requires effort and knowledge.
Well, yes, but see, the thing is with Touch DNA, which a lot of people don't think about, is in my opinion, it's not, I mean, it's foolproof, but here's the thing. If I go to Target or here, I went to Michael's and I just bought this pillow, okay? Isn't it cute? I love it. Okay, I bought this pillow. Well, I wanted to see, like, is it fluffy? Yeah. Is it hard? Is it going to be nice on my head? I've got Touch DNA all over that. But you know what? The last 15 people that picked it up in the store and did the same thing also have Touch DNA on it. Yeah. Right? So if I were to go to a store and purchase something that, you know, is on the shelf, who knows how many other people have touched that. If you come over to my house and you sit on my pillow and you touch my pillow, your DNA is now on my pillow, but that doesn't mean that you were the perpetrator. But that doesn't mean that you were the perpetrator.
Where you sit today, are you certain that Bryan Kohberger is the killer?
With what you know.
I don't trust anybody or anything, so I have to see it myself. I have to see everything. Mind is still open to the potential, of course, that it could have been someone else, of course. Yep. I go into that 100%, yep, of course. That's not where you are.
No.
Yeah, that's fine.